Hello! So I am someone who has always struggled a lot with backgrounds. Most of the backgrounds I have done are like nature or stuff that's really blurred out, or just like a sky, like really simple stuff most of the time. But something I've always wanted to be good at and have always struggled a lot with is interiors. Now, this one time I did draw an interior, I used The Sims 4, and I actually thought that turned out pretty decently. So I wanted to try that again, but more with an illustration, since last time it was for a comic. So I want to show you how I am using The Sims 4 to draw a background. So first, obviously, I made the background in The Sims 4. I wanted to keep something pretty simple since it is an area I struggle with. I didn't want to overwhelm myself with something a bit complicated. So I just did this little bedroom set. And I did build it quite literally as a set in The Sims. I made sure to not have an actual back wall so I could adjust the camera how I wanted for the screenshot for when I used it as a reference. So I did that. I just built a pretty simple bedroom. I kind of wish I had more Sims packs, to be honest, because I would have liked to add some more interesting stuff. I think a lot of the early Sims stuff is not. It's more simple, which I guess is kind of good for this kind of thing because it's a lot easier to switch up how they look. But also, I just like a lot of the newer stuff, so I think it would have been fun to build with that and try to do a more whimsical background. I did like a modern build, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities to do all sorts of different settings, especially with more Sims packs that I don't have. Tragedy. Yeah, I think I did mostly just the base game for this. So, you know, The Sims 4 is very often put up for free, just the base game. If you ever want to try it for this sort of thing, you can still definitely make decent backgrounds with just the base game. And then once I was finished that, I took a bunch of screenshots so that I could pick one that felt right for the drawing and brought it into Photoshop. Now, something I could have done is just use that as a reference and just copied it. But I did end up tracing a lot of the stuff, and by a lot of it I mean pretty much all of the background, mostly because The Sims 4 has a grid on it, and I just did not trust myself to accurately figure out the angles of everything. So I did trace it all. There's a few things I altered, especially when it came to the coloring, you'll see. But I mean, my plan is to be very transparent that this is all a Sims 4 background in a drawing. So I wasn't too worried about making it look like I didn't use The Sims 4, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what this whole video is. Also, I don't think tracing is always bad. That's an interesting discussion for sure in our community. I think tracing is bad if that's all you do, and if you frame it as if that is your own work. But if you're tracing, it can really help with muscle memory. It's not always terrible. You do have to be transparent. Anything you trace, you always have to say, hey, I traced this from blank source. I also think a lot of artists do use 3D models for backgrounds and probably trace those. I could be wrong. I know 3D models are used very often for backgrounds in comics, I believe. I follow a few comic artists that I think have mentioned that. So I guess this is just a very strange user-friendly tool for 3D model backgrounds. I think most people will actually make the 3D models themselves in Blender or something, which is something I'd kind of like to try someday, just not on my little laptop. I don't think I could handle that, but maybe someday I'll do a video on Blender in like a few years when I can afford a PC. But yeah, I guess Sims 4 is kind of like a free 3D model tool. Again, you definitely have to alter stuff a bit more than what I did if you're gonna use it in your comics or something, or else you'd have to constantly be crediting The Sims 4 at the end of every chapter. But yeah, I just did a lot of it is pretty simple. There's different aspects of the furniture I switched up, like I said. I think if I were to do this again, I would maybe sketch tracing and then line art myself. I was still pretty loose with the tracing, to be fair, and I would probably switch up details. Like, I honestly wasn't sure what to even put on the bookshelf, so I did just copy what I had in The Sims 4. But it's fine, it gets the job done, it works. And then when it came to coloring, I had a very specific vision of like it being pretty dim in there with the window light being the main light source. So I had like a filter on the whole time while I was coloring, and that ended up making the colors a bit hard to work with for the background part. But I think I got it in the end. It also helps like unify the colors, having like a filter on top, which was something I really wanted to work on here, was making the character that I was going to draw on the background look like they're a part of the background, because I find that to be a struggle sometimes, is having the character actually look like they're in the environment that they're in. So really wanted to make sure that was something I was focused on. So once I got all those sort of basic colors down for the background, I just did some flats and like that overlay gradient thing. And then I sketched out the character. This is my OC bird. Obviously I had to put an OC in this, you know? I wasn't just gonna draw a random person. That's crazy. So this is my OC bird. I've been very OC focused lately because of Art Fight and prepping for Art Fight, which I do want to talk about a bit later. But first, let me finish talking about the drawing. I wanted him just leaning against the bed and basking in the sun, as one does. So I kept the drawing pretty simple, especially with the outfit. I realized I've never drawn his full body ever. So, full body reveal, I guess. Yeah, I wasn't super focused on making sure the anatomy and everything looked nice. My main focus, like I said, was to the colors and making it look all cohesive and part of the same environment. So I threw in the flats, and then I started adding overlays and shading in the rest of the background. I wanted to do that at the same time as the character to really make sure everything's looking connected, you know, and part of one scene. And then I spent the remainder of the time focusing on the lighting. And while I do that in the speed paint, I want to talk about Art Fight, which is coming up literally tomorrow or the next day. I don't know when I'm getting this video out, actually. It might even be happening. Very exciting. Yeah, that's the reason videos have been really slow, and the reason this video only has one artwork. I usually like to do multiple drawings per video, and I've been working on so many different videos at once, but mainly I've been working on references for Art Fight. That's been my main focus, because I really want to do a big video for Art Fight. So that's why I haven't been uploading. I promise I've got several big videos in the works, including that Art Fight video. So there's stuff to come. This is just a quick, simple video practicing backgrounds with a weird tool that is The Sims 4. Now, do I recommend The Sims 4 to draw backgrounds? Probably not for every background. But it was a lot of fun to use, and I think the result is pretty nice. Doing like a drawing where there's this much of a background is not something I'm used to doing. Having the character so small in the overall frame of the picture is kind of wild for me. But you know, I think it could be really good for referencing. I think I went a little too heavy on the referencing by tracing it. Honestly, it could be good for, especially for perspective wise and getting the grid in. And Sims 4 is pretty customizable. I have a lot of cool builds, in my opinion, that I've done that I definitely could have used for reference for backgrounds, but they were a little too grand for me, a little intimidating. I also wanted to record the Sims part of what I was doing here. Honestly, I've thought about doing Sims 4 videos, but I feel like everyone subbed for art, so I don't know. Honestly, maybe it's just me. As a quick tangent, I honestly struggle a lot with YouTube lately because I have so many grand ideas for videos. Like I've said, I've got several big ones in the works, and art takes such a long time, and I get burned out so easily with art. So a lot of my creativity goes into things like The Sims 4 or Minecraft or stuff like that. And I feel like that's stuff that I don't know how to showcase on YouTube because everyone's here for like drawing. And I don't really want to alienate those people that are there for the drawing. But I also feel like my upload schedule is very slow and I feel bad about it. And I would love to get more stuff out, but I just physically can't do it. But I really appreciate everyone who has supported my channel. It's had a lot of growth this past year, and it's really meant a lot to me. And I really appreciate every kind comment I've ever received. I don't know why I'm getting into this right now on this random Sims 4 background video that's going to be kind of small and short. But I thought I'd mention it for no reason. So yeah, thank you. And thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think. And if you've ever used Sims 4 for backgrounds, how do you like it? I do think it's important to credit The Sims 4 if you do use The Sims 4 for backgrounds, which is why I don't know if I would recommend it, but I think the result can be pretty nice, and it's quite fun and relaxing to do without having to think about a background too hard, you know what I mean? This is the final drawing. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out my Artfight account. I'll link that in the description. And I will see you in the big video that's coming up at the end of next month. Thank you so much. I will see you then. Bye-bye.